Welcome to Bury Your Bookie. I'm Jeff Deforrest. Very happy to have you with us for this edition of the program where last night we made history and at the same time we got smacked right in the face as if we were taking a right hand from Alexis Arguello right in the face by reality. It was a tough loss that we incurred, our first loss on our baseball selections, and we were mulling over a bunch of things and, of course, came up with the wrong one for you. But we did make history on our season-long proposition bet, which we'll get to in just a few moments. We also are going to feature the Greek on today's program, the Greek who got off to a magnificent start. As we said, this guy is the Lou Gehrig of degenerates, our good friend, the Greek. The luckiest man on the face of the earth. You don't want to go against him. It'll turn out to be very costly. And he's going to join us for a little preview of the college football week coming up in just a second. But if you are betting, BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. From the preseason NFL games to college kicking off, BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, even live odds and spreads while the games are being played. If you think you know your stuff and really are into this, get in on the winner-take-all $300,000 survivor pool for the upcoming season. It's right around the corner. When the game's over, head on over to the online casino. You can play poker. You can play blackjack. You can indulge in over 150 slot games they offer to you. Head to the website today. Use the promo code BELIEVE. That's BLEAV. Get in on all the action. Bet online. The game starts here. All right, so we did have some inside information that we passed along to you on a show that we did prior to the baseball season called License to Steal. As we were informed by somebody inside the Marlins organization, a rather pathetic organization, that this, and look at that, again, advancement in technology is so great in this world that there is the Greek. Greek, how are you, my friend? You're looking good, kid. You all right? He might be frozen in time there, the Greek, but we'll eventually get him moving and get his lips moving. But hopefully, if that's the portrait that we have for the entire show, we're going to be in trouble. But the Greek off to a rocking start with us. I'm going to try and there you go. Now you're starting to move around a little bit, Greek. Are you with us, Greek? Are you logged in, ready to go? He's freezing up. But in the meantime, we can explain to you what transpired. So before the season started, we had inside information that the Marlins were going to absolutely suck this year, that they were going to trade all of their players away, and they were not even tanking. This was subterranean tanking. And it came from a source that would normally be very favorable and much more flattering towards the organization. Guy had been with them since the outset. And sure enough, they come out of the chute there. They win like one of their first 40 games, it seemed like. And this is the earliest we've ever cashed a season-long proposition bet in any sport with, almost 30 games to go in a regular season. We managed to hit the under of 79 games. All right, Greek, have you got us? I see you maneuvering around there, but we're not exactly getting the full impact of your presence here on the program.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you, Greek. You all right?
You're going in and out. I can't hear you too well.
Okay, you very much the same.
You.
All right. We may have to try to reconnect. Try and reconnect, and we'll see if we can get a better connection here. I'm going to punch you out here and just dial us back in, the Greek, ladies and gentlemen. So anyway, yeah, I mean, it turned out to be a great piece of inside information. So we make history. We cash a season-long proposition bet far earlier than I think I could have ever imagined in my lifetime. Here it is, August 27th, and we're already online getting the money. And then we get smacked in the face with the reality of our first loss of the season, as we gave you, and the logic was there. Whenever you're following pristine logic, your first inclination should be maybe just to say, fuck it, let me throw all of that right out the window and go the other way. It depends on how much you trust yourself and your own instincts. But we're looking at two garbage pitchers. Well, I don't know that Cabrera of the Marlins could be considered a garbage pitcher, but he's a guy with potential who hasn't really manifested that yet. Last night, he looks like Pedro Martinez going against the Rockies. We have Marlins Rockies over 10 and a hook. A lot of runs. Anybody would tell you that that's a lot of wood to lay there if you're looking for scoring. But we're in Colorado. The Marlins have been hitting the ball a little bit. They've been putting runs on the board, and they can't pitch their way out of any situation. They've recently lost a couple of guys to injury that were in the bullpen that at least had half a chance of getting some people out. Everything looks favorable. We're watching this skinny, waif-like human being, Keegan Bradley, teeing off in Colorado, hitting, crushing. I mean, the guy looks like Ichabod Crane. He's crushing 400-yard drives right down the middle of the fairway, and we're thinking just about any ball that contact is made with by the hitter is going out of the park if they're playing in Colorado. All signs pointing to the over until the game got started. And, of course, the announcers who bring on the local broadcast of the game as we're sitting there hoping that maybe we get like an explosion in the top of the first for 4 or 5 runs to get us off a mat into a springboard to winning. Instead, what do we get? We get 3.5 innings of shutout ball. The pitcher for the Marlins, Cabrera, is looking like Pedro Martinez out there. And this guy, Feltner, who was starting for the Rockies, a 1-10 record with a 5.00 earned run average, he looks like the best pitcher they ever had, which, by the way, according to most surveys, is a guy named Ubaldo Jimenez. Anybody remember him? What did he have, a couple of good seasons? Because nobody could pitch for the Rockies. It's impossible. It's a death trap. Remember Mike Hampton went there? He was great. Next thing you know, I mean, breaking ball isn't breaking. It's breaking its way somewhere into the Rocky Mountains, landing in a Poor's distribution plant. And, people are just rounding the bases one after another. So everything seemed to be favorable going into the game. Quickly, we realized that we were doomed. The announcers said, hey, there are going to be a lot of runs scored in this game. And that turned out to be anything but the case. So we go down in flames. In the meantime, we ignored a couple of other props. I'm not inclined to, and let's face it, it's the old thing Harvey Pack used to say at the track, not a man alive who ever made a living at 3 to 5. And if you're betting a lot of 1 to 2 proposition bets, there's a pretty good chance that, never mind burying your bookie, that you are going to find yourself seeking out a vial of embalming fluid and trying to figure out a way to put an end to this losing streak. And not that we recommend that as a viable option, but just figuratively for sure. Because you're never going to make it. You have to win 2 for every 1 that you lose just to break even. And it's not easy to hit that 667 percentage, even with the most ominous and overwhelming of favorites. So, the 1 to 2 shot is not necessarily one thing you want to bet into. And that was the deal last night. If you were betting against Aaron Judge hitting a home run, which we had said there was a lot of sophisticated handicapping that went into a gentleman's conclusion from Action Sports that plus 190, the way the Judge was creaming the baseball, was going to be a very fortunate proposition bet to undertake. But we're thinking, okay, all of that logic is great, but the guy's going to maybe get 1 meaningful at bat. He did have a base hit. I think it was his 1,000th career base hit. The guy's having a phenomenal season. Possibility of winning the Triple Crown. Going to win the home run title, RBI title, and batting average is up there, up for grabs. So, having an amazing year. Betting against him, probably not the best thing to do, especially at 1 to 2. But that would have been the position last night. And we were mulling over the Phillies and the Phillies against the Astros. Astros coming into Philadelphia red hot. Wheeler on the mound. You would have had to lay a price. That was another 1 to 2 proposition bet. And so we thought maybe lay out of that. Ended up being a 3-2 game thriller in Manila. Won in the 9th inning by Bryce Harper and a base hit. And so those would have been winners, but both at 1 to 2. In the meantime, we handed you a stone loser. As I said, I mean, it was absolutely crazy watching these guys perform last night in a pitcher's duel that you could have never in your wildest imagination have anticipated. All right, we're sorry we weren't able to bring you the Greek. The Greek is one of those guys with a direct pipeline to Las Vegas. And we had a cockamamie connection there, and he wasn't able to somehow log back in. So we were going to discuss, and I'm a little torn in this game. It's a big game in terms of regional presence and around the country. I guess much of the country is probably going to get to see this game. The University of Miami, who people have somewhere in the, 13 to 17 range, ranked in the country to get Cam Ward at quarterback and the transfer portal. And the question is, can they overcome Mario Cristobal, who I still am wrestling with this as as you look at a coach's reputation and his credentials, if you're the coach that made the dumbest of all time single play calling blunders, maybe in the history of college football, in that game last year against Georgia Tech, when all he needs to do is have his quarterback drop back, take a knee. It's called the victory formation. And after coaching as a head coach at major programs like Oregon, and he also had been a head coach at Florida International University, other places. He had worked with Nick Saban. I mean, it's not like he hadn't been around guys that understand that if all you have to do is take a knee to win the game, by all rights, take a fucking knee. So I find that, and I liked Mario Cristobal. I had a chance to cover Mario Cristobal when he was a player at the University of Miami. This was when they were in their heyday. They were winning virtually everything, swashbuckling their way into parties, wearing fatigues and firing steaks at the other team, going out there. And except for that one game against Penn State, they pretty much delivered on what that swagger represented. Under a variety of different head coaches who all went on to great acclaim and fame themselves and accomplished a lot, even in the aftermath of their careers at the University of Miami. But nonetheless, I mean, you can't possibly do something that stupid and still somehow retain. I know the contract is onerous, and there's no way the University of Miami can afford to pay this guy to go away, but that would have been it for me. I mean, if I'm the athletic director, that contract goes right in the shredder. He instead hands the ball off, famously described now as, Georgia Tech, and then pulled off this upset the other day where they're still pulling FSU fans out of the Irish Sea, literally in body bags. And I mean, you can't recover from that. So the question would be, going into this game, laying 2.5 with the University of Miami, is Mario Cristobal dumb enough as a head coach to somehow get out-coached by Billy Napier, who's also, I mean, very much on the hot seat with the Florida Gator fans, an impatient bunch? I mean, they don't necessarily, have a lot of virtue when it comes to saying, well, let the guy develop his program. But Napier's had a couple of years there, and there seems to be some dissension about the way that he's handled things. So this is a huge game for him if he beats the University of Miami in the home opener with the Florida Gators. Then maybe some of that pressure comes off. So a lot at stake here. Do you factor into the equation the overall incompetence of a head coach in situations that are of a crucial matter in strategies late in games? And Mario Cristobal has been horrible at that. So that's something to look at. I was hoping to get the Greek's opinion in on that, but we were, as we say, unfortunately unable to make that connection. All right, a lot of stuff going on. Now, one of the things to look at, too, and you might be able to spot this, still have first-round, opening round matches in the U.S. Open taking place in New York City, a great tennis tournament. We have a little bit of an American presence there, certainly on the women's side, and there are more American men who are prominent. And the first round is a place where you might be able to spot the upset. As took place yesterday, you had Brandon Nakashima, who's kind of been knocking around for a while. He's somewhere, I think he might, with his win yesterday, somehow find his way into the top 50 in the world. And you're saying, well, what's the big deal there, Deforrest? You probably could go 100 deep and find guys that can win, even against top guys. These guys that are ranked somewhere between 50 and 100, they're not necessarily easy outs in the first round of tournaments, especially if there's a player that is incurring any kind of negative wavelength surrounding his presence in the tournament, as was the case yesterday with Nakashima's opponent, Holger Rune, who has sort of been his own ruination, as he's 21 years old, just laced with talent. Looked like he was going to make an immediate ascent, much like Carlos Alcaraz and Yannick Sinner have. And he is not the one that has emerged. I mean, this was true of Novak Djokovic at one point in his career, where people were saying, hey, wait a minute. This guy has all the talent in the world. How come he's not winning tournament after tournament? I don't know that exact same thing could be said about Holger Rune, but he should be more accomplished. And yet he loomed as a very vulnerable favorite yesterday against Nakashima, who ended up blasting him out in straight sets. There was dissension there. He's made a number of coaching changes, and even though he seems to be a very upbeat kid, Holger Rune, very vulnerable favorite in the first round, and he did get knocked out. I mean, just manhandled by Nakashima, who moves on now to the second round. Where I don't know, could that give him some momentum to spring another upset? We shall see. But it's definitely something to look for. If you can find a situation where you have a seeded player going against some hungry qualifier, and you have any insight into how that player has been performing, you sometimes get those early knockouts of highly seeded players in events like this. So be on the lookout for that. Well, we'll try to spot some for you as we head into the second round of the tournament. All right, we'll have some more college football, some special things coming up if we can make the connections. We will tomorrow have our man Troy West on the program. Troy West, outstanding handicapper. Got off to an 0-2 start here on the show, but joined the club now. We're in the losers bracket also after suffering our first loss yesterday with the over in that Marlins Rockies game. An atrocity and a very difficult game to watch. As we'll get into a little college football with Troy West as well. And then a very special edition of the program coming up on Thursday with the poker champion, the great poker champion, World Series of Poker winner, and a real character. Great story. Johnny Chan will join us on the program. The great Johnny Chan, speaking of another form of degeneracy. And the professor coming your way on Friday. Always good with his college football picks and always great insight. So a lot to look forward to on the program. We apologize for not being able to bring you the Greek today. Apologize for the brief burial yesterday, but we did hit on our season-long proposition bet on August 27th. Still a month to go in a year, and we're cashing. And that's the way that we like to be here on Bury Your Bookie. So we'll see you tomorrow. And don't forget, Thursday, special edition with Johnny Chan, the great poker champion. And until then, thanks so much for tuning in. For the people at nofilter.net, our various other platforms, I'm Jeff Deforrest, and we'll see you next time on Bury Your Bookie.